Hey everybody, welcome to Journey Through the Generations, and we're back with another episode. And today what we're going to talk about is F.A.N Club, F.A.N. And it's not in the sense that you're probably thinking, like having someone cheering for you, which is that's great. You always need that group of people cheering for you, especially when you're doing family research. And you have people who don't want to talk to you or you can't find people and those kinds of things. It's important to have people by your side. But today we're going to talk about an acronym, F.A.N.
Yes.
And F stands for friends. Mm-hmm. The A stands for associates.
Correct.
And then the N stands for network.
Neighbors.
All right. So Trisha wrote a blog about F.A.N Club. How long ago was it?
It was about 2 years ago.
Yeah. So go back to the blog, go back to the blog and read that. But and I'll link to it in the episode description. But Trisha, where did you learn about F.A.N Club and why did you write about it?
Originally, just me reading genealogy books and listening to other family historians through the years. I kept hearing about these F.A.N principles, and it's known as the F.A.N Club. And so when people would talk about their F.A.N Club this, their F.A.N Club that, and originally I thought it was the people who, help them with their blog or their research and things like that. And I guess that kind of is still true. But this is the brainchild of Elizabeth Shawn Mills. And she came up with these F.A.N principles, friends, associates, and neighbors, to be able to help you break down brick walls that you could not find. This is information that you couldn't find in vital records or on census records or in the library, because the premise is if you find your grandmother's friend, she would be able to tell you information about your grandmother that maybe nobody would know. She would be able to explain things that she had done in the community before she was married. Maybe they were college friends, and she could tell you stories about them in college that maybe nobody else remembered or knew. And that goes with, other associates that, your family member ancestors have had. And of course, neighbors. If you've ever watched the show 227, that's one of my favorite shows. And one of the ladies always sat in her window, Pearl. And she always knew what was going on that street.
just as nosy as she want to be.
She remembered. She knew everybody in the building. She knew everybody who lived across the street. She knew everybody's kids. So I always think about that, and I think of who was the Pearl in my neighborhood that can give me information about my family that maybe nobody knew or maybe nobody wants to talk about. That would be interesting information for my research.
Yeah, and the friends part of that for me, we're going to have another episode talking about this, but the friends part is how I found out where my, great-grandfather was buried.
Yes.
And his family.
Yes.
Was by talking to friends. Mm-hmm. Of the family and of the community.
Of the neighborhood, right?
Right, the neighborhood. And so that's how I found out more information. And then I found out some additional information by going to his gravesite. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you got to have those groups of people. It's not just you by yourself. Mm-hmm. There's a group of people out there that can help you. You just have to go out and either contact them or find them. Ask them questions, visit them, whatever it is that you need to do. You got to find out who those people are, and it'll help.
Right, because I always think about it like this: if Wesley or Wesley's children were continuing this research, they would be able to find out a lot of information from what I have found out from vital records and things like that, census records, neighborhoods, and a little bit of my F.A.N Club, but if he or his kids were to talk to my closest friends, my sorority sisters, the people that I went to college with, went to high school with, he would find out so much more information and things about me than if he had talked to my sister. Now, my sister knows a lot about me. She can share a lot of memories, but that was during a time when I wasn't with my sister. I was with my friends in college, and they know things and can tell stories that nobody else can tell, and nobody can tell them like them.
Yeah, and if he want to know what I was doing in college, he can ask one of my line brothers or my fraternity brothers, and
he would get a different story from talking to your brother.
He would get that information. So shout out to all my frat out there. A5. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you for that. So that's what I always think about with friends. Associates, I always think about if you were to talk to people at church or school records or military records or work records, things like that, because you never know, because I'm always saying that everybody should write their story down. So you never know who's going to write their story from your community, and your ancestor may be a part of that story in there somewhere. Yeah,
you just never know. And I can just, it's so many examples of how it could work, but maybe you talk to an associate of your family, and maybe it's somebody that he or she worked with. Mm-hmm. And so now you know where to go and look for maybe some pension records or something like that.
It's absolutely
that's how you learn, mm-hmm. and you find out information, is to be talking to other people. And that's what we always say, the first thing you need to do when you start your research, which, by the way, we'll have a podcast
on that too
soon about how to start searching. But anyway, that's what we always say is talk to your family members who are alive and well, mm-hmm. and can tell you the stories, information, share pictures, all that good stuff. And so, talk to those people, and you'll find out. You will find out a lot of information.
Right.
It's not just all on Ancestry.com and Family Search and all these different genealogy sites. Those are great.
Oh yeah, they're great.
But they can't tell the story that your grandmother can tell about your great grandmother or whatever.
Right.
So.
You can't, by talking to your friends and family, associates and neighbors, you're able to get a picture of their lives, not just birth date and death date. It's what we call between the dash. You find out about where they worked, where they went to school, if they were in social organizations, if they were, members of the church, if they did volunteer stuff. You get a better glimpse of what their lives were like. Were they, really into voter registration, and they register voters every year for the last 30 years. You just never know what you can find out about the lives of your ancestors.
Yeah, and if you talk to your neighbors, for some reason, this is in my mind. This hasn't happened to me, but, just think if you have somebody in your family tree that you think is your brother, but is really your cousin.
Right, that usually
vice versa.
Right, that usually come from inside the house.
Right, I mean, your neighbor is going to say, you'll say, oh, Junebug was my brother, and your neighbor be like, no, not really. That was your cousin because, XYZ.
And that's the whole story.
And even though that person is still your brother, mm-hmm. to you, from a, genealogy standpoint, that is your cousin. And now you're going on a different path for him.
Correct.
So now you're looking at, something totally different. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't change your relationship at all. It just guides you down a different path. So I don't know why that came up to me, but just another example of, talking to other people. You can learn about, what's really going on in the family. Sometimes the secrets.
And then again, they usually do come from neighbors and associates. But neighbors also, when I think of the neighbor aspect of the fan club, I also think about deed records. And that's something that I don't really talk about a lot because I haven't actually used them a lot. But recently I've been using them more. And if you find a deed record, like a really good deed record, it'll have information about their neighbors on the deed record. So if I were to go and find a deed record for the people across the street that live from my grandparents, and it goes back 100 years, I could find out information about my grandparents' home, who owned it, how it got passed down, how long they had been there. It's all kind of information in a deed record, not only about that person and their house, but their neighbors around them as well.
Yeah, and you just have to think outside the box a little bit, because if you're stuck on a certain family or family member, maybe you check out a census record and see who lives next door, and maybe you research them,
right?
Find some contacts, somebody you can talk to, and then you could learn, about your family that way too.
Absolutely
so
right.
You have to think outside the box. Is it gonna cause you more time and research? Yes, it is. But if you want to get to where you need to, sometimes you just might have to do that.
Yeah, because that's how a lot of people, when they're searching enslaved people after the emancipation, the 1870 census, if you find your ancestor on that census, and if you look around, on that page or the page before, page after, and you see someone with that same last name that's Caucasian, 9 times out of 10, that was probably the slaveholder. If you go back, and then you can go back to the 1860s and see how much property and things they had. So that's how they tie together slave owners and enslaved people as well. So that's a good point.
And that's how I found out who let me see. I always have to think about this. I'm not as good as other, I don't know. I'm getting off topic here.
That's
but
okay.
I don't know how genealogists and family researchers do it. You'll be talking to them and they say, oh yeah, my Uncle Ron, was born in 1845 or 1913 or whatever it is. And it's just like, how can you come up with that just like that? I have to think.
That's because they've been researching for years and years, and they've written it down and typed it out and put it in this database and this database. And
I guess. So
the more you do it, the more you remember.
Well, I'm still in the got to think about it phase. So anyway, checking the census records for around my family, that's how I was able to find my great grandfather's wife. Oh, she would be my great grandmother, right?
Yes.
And that's how I found, they were separated at the time. And that's how I found where she was living and who was with her in that household turned out to be my grandfather.
Oh, right.
In the household.
Because she had the children.
But remember, I was like, where are these people? And I thought they were still in Memphis, but they weren't. They were in Arkansas. Right down the street. And so anyway, that's just more examples for you that, you just kind of have to, dig around the family a little bit.
Right. And I'm also going to say, because, I do photographs, pictures is one of my things. So also when you're, talking to or getting to know these families, friends, associates, and neighbors, I always ask for if they have pictures of your ancestors. Because one of the things that I always think is amazing is, I live in the world of Instagram, Facebook, social media. And I remember when Throwback Thursday was a thing, and everybody would post old pictures. And I would always think, I remember being there, and I have pictures that I took of this event 15 years ago. But it's so neat to see other people's pictures of the same event, that I'm with other people or that I'm taking pictures of. So always ask for pictures, because those friends, associates, and neighbors are going to have pictures of your ancestors and relatives that you may not have seen.
That's a good point, because I got to do a much better job of that, because I'm meeting a lot of family that I didn't know existed before a few months ago. And so, we got in not just ask for those photos, but take photos when you're there, because I met a cousin of mine probably a few months ago, and met her daughter and her daughter.
3 generations.
And it turns out that the 3rd generation daughter goes to school right down the street from us.
I've been here for a year too.
Yeah, at the U of A. And so when they came to visit, they were in town to visit her, and they came to the house, and unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to stand outside in the cold, but
social distance,
but
with mask on.
That was unfortunate, but we were able to talk to them for a few minutes and take a picture. And as a matter of fact, I'll put that picture out on Facebook and on Twitter. So follow us over there so you can see those. But yeah, that was cool. And it comes up to find out she is like one of the people who know all about the family. Yes. And it led me to the branch of my family that goes all the way back to slavery, which I still have some work to do on that, but I'm going to the family reunion next year.
I'm so excited.
And so that's exciting. And so it leads you to other information. So, be sure you ask those questions and ask for pictures, take pictures.
Right.
And you'll always have those.
Yeah, I've been using the fan club before I knew it was a fan club. Because again, I come from a very small community, and one of the things that I did was, talk to, my mother's friends and my father's friends and, my grandparents' friends when I first started this research. And one of the things that I did that I didn't know I was doing at the time was this man in my community. His name is James Logan Morgan. He was a minister, and he was really into genealogy for the majority of his life. And once he died, his family donated all of his genealogy and history records to a research center. And so that's one of the collections that I really go to a lot when I need information. And I was able to find in his collection one of my granny's friends' college information. She had gone to Dunbar and Philander, which are the same schools that my granny went to. And at the time, I didn't know that they were schoolmates. But he had one of her college scrapbooks, and I was able to find a picture of Miss Oates and my granny when they were in college together back in 1932. And I would have never found that picture if I hadn't been researching my granny's friend. I was able to, and that's how I narrowed down when my granny actually graduated from Dunbar and Philander, because they went to school together, and she had the college commencement program, and I could, see my granny's name in and everything. So that's how I was able to find my granny's school records and documents and years that she graduated.
Yeah. So good stuff, good information. I believe it's certainly for new researchers. And hopefully there's some information in there for people who have been researching for a long time, and something has been able to help you. Do you have anything else you want to touch
on? Just keep researching, and sometimes you have to think outside the box to get that information.
Yeah. All right. So we really appreciate you guys for listening. Down in the episode notes, I'll have the links to the things that we referenced today, and of course all of our social media. So go over there and like and follow, and comment on our post about the fan club and what you use it for, and also, hey, show us a picture of some family members that you met.
We would love to see it.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. So we really appreciate you guys for listening. Y'all have a good one. Make sure you guys stay safe out there.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to y'all later.